Outstanding, red team, outstanding. Get your case of beer for that.
Good evening. be up in just a bit. Is it me, or is the music just really good tonight? Do a little something different tonight. I'm gonna read some news. Burning. Yes, I remember that song well. I gotta tell the story. We were practicing in a storage bin in the wintertime. We were crazy. We loved playing, but we didn't have any place to play. And it was just too loud. I was at my mom's at that time. We were quite young, but not that young. Anyways, we were practicing in a storage bin, and it had one little plug. Well, it had a light socket, you know. And we went to Home Depot or wherever and bought the little socket that you plug in and has a, you know, prong for 110 power. So what we did was we got that, we hooked up a big orange extension cord, and I had my stuff in there too. But we made a little, I think it was like 20 by 30 or something. And all the boxes were on each side, and I made a path going to the back, and then a little area, just enough to fit us in the drums. It was tight. And we had a little salamander, or not a salamander, just one of those rinky-dink heaters, you know, electric heaters. They don't heat with a poop. I wish I had a salamander. Those things are like, you know, it warms you up in no time. But in there in October, and you know, as it got colder, it got worse. But in, I don't know, I think it was February of the next year, I said, let's go in the studio. It's because I went to school there. I wanted to learn a little bit about the recording industry, and this studio. The red supergiant Betelgeuse is dimming. Will the bright star Betelgeuse finally explode? A look at the dimming red giant in Orion's shoulder. It can't hurt to look up at the night sky, just in case. Well, one of the brightest stars in the sky has been dimming. But while it might be signaling that it's ready to explode, it's probably just fading because of strange stellar physics. Betelgeuse, a reddish star that's one of the brightest in the night sky, has been noticeably fainting or getting dimmer. The approximately 8.5 million year old star, which is part of the Orion constellation, has been one of the most recognizable stars in the sky because of its brightness and coloration. But this recent dramatic fading has prompted scientists to suggest that the star might be entering a pre-supernova phase, dimming before it collapses and dies in fiery supernova explosion. If the star does become a supernova, Betelgeuse, I know some people say Betelgeuse, I guess it's just a tomato thing, would likely be as bright as, or even brighter than, the moon for weeks. At 642.5 light years from Earth, it would be the closest supernova observed and recorded by humans, closer than the Crab Nebula, which is 6,523 light years from Earth, and is the result of a supernova reported to have taken place in AD 1054. This also means that if we see Betelgeuse explode tonight, the supernova really took place over 600 years ago. We're only seeing it now. It's a nice picture. Will Betelgeuse, or Betelgeuse, explode? The brightest stars in the sky. It'd be brilliant. The star would be so bright that it would make it difficult to see other stars near it. Edward Gennan, a professor of astronomy and astrophysics at Villanova University, who reported the dimming, in an astronomer's telegram, told Space.com it would be the brightest supernova ever observed in our galaxy. But will we really see Betelgeuse explode? A massive dimming star. It's not surprising that the extremely massive star, which is likely about 20 times the mass of the Sun, has been dimming, because it's a variable star, meaning its brightness naturally shifts, something that scientists have observed for decades. The star has been classified a red supergiant star because of its size. However, with this recent dimming, the star's brightness kept going down beyond the limits that we scientists ever saw. It went outside of its usual parameter or comfort zone, Gennan said. It's dimming a lot more than we've seen. Serafina Nance, an astronomy graduate student who studies Betelgeuse and stellar explosions at the UC Berkeley, told Space.com, but does that dimming foretell an explosion? We know massive stars like Betelgeuse will explode as a supernova. The question is, when? There really haven't been close observations of them, supernovae, before they go off, Gennan said. He explained that While some think that there wouldn't be any major changes in the star until just hours before it blows up, others think that it would start to dim about a year before exploding. There's no true consensus. While it's possible that the star could explode any time between now and 100,000 years from now, this dimming might not actually be a sign that it's about to blow. Both Nance and Gannon said, that's a really nice picture. Shows you how much bigger it is than the sun. Holy smokes, it's a monster. It almost looks like it's exploded now. If it looks like that. Oh, artist visualization shows Betelgeuse and as it is revealed by new observation techniques with SO's Very Large Telescope. Well, then show the images with the telescope. A false alarm? While he acknowledges that it could explode soon and this dimming could be a sign that the explosion may happen relatively soon, I believe it is going to blow up now, Gannon said. Oh, I believe it isn't going to blow up now, Gannon said. I hope it does, but my bet is that it's not going to. It's going to come back up, get brighter again. Nance admits we could absolutely be wrong. She said, referring to her theory, that the dimming is not a sign that the star is about to explode. That said, I do think that this is more indicative of really interesting physics that's going on with the star rather than an imminent explosion. If it does explode and we're wrong, awesome. I would love to be wrong. I would love to see that, Nance said. While it would be pretty amazing to witness the ultra-bright transformation of such an enormous and close star into supernova, Gannon said it seems more likely that this dimming does not indicate a pre-supernova phase and can be explained in another way. Food for thought. What if the sun is connected to Betelgeuse and it gets its electrons from it? What would it do? Something to think about. According to Nance, they wouldn't want it to blow up then, would they? According to Nance, no one is exactly sure why this stellar fainting is happening. It could be caused by instabilities within Betelgeuse. She explained that different parts of stars can have different densities, and this density instability can cause energy to rise and fall within a star, moving energy from its inside to its outside. This, in turn, can cause changes in brightness, cause the star to get bigger and to contract, and much more. Nance added that this extreme dip in brightness could also be attributed to magnetic activity in the star. We know magnetic has to be electric, but it is difficult to model that activity through simulations, so they do not yet know if that is the definite factor. She even added that it's possible that matter ejected from the star is creating a sort of dust fog that's currently obscuring and dimming the star. The likely lack of nearby explosion might make this star seem less interesting, but Nance thinks just the opposite. I think that this is really interesting to watch and really interesting from a physics perspective of trying to better understand how massive stars experience periods of variability, she said. You should still look up. Now, while both Nance and Gannon think that it's most likely that Betelgeuse is just displaying a dimmer appearance because of some interesting stellar physics, they also agree that an explosion in our lifetime is still possible. It's worth it to look up and look for the dimming star in the night sky. While I don't think it's going to explode anytime soon, Nance said, I'll keep my eye on it just in case. We don't know what's going to happen. Wow. There are absolutely limits to our models, she said. I'm going to look up at the night sky and check that it's still there every time I go outside, even if it is in a pre-explosion phase. It's exciting to watch the star now as it dims. It's kind of neat to see astrophysics or astronomy and stellar evolution in action, Gannon said. These changes are usually so slow that you can't observe them. Meet Alma. Amazing photos from the giant radio telescope. And that was from space.com. Thank you, space.com. And I had some comments. I'm not going to read them. Well, you know, we believe that stars are electric. And when they're dimming, it's just like they're getting more juice and then getting less juice. It seems a lot simpler, doesn't it? All right, I'm going to take a real elementary approach to what I think is going on in a star. All right, now that picture right there, if I said to you, just about every one of you that are watching this, I would not be able to fool you if I said that this house is being lit from the inside. I don't mean plugged in or anything tricky. I mean the source of light that's emanating from the outside is coming from the inside. You would think, no, that's not right. That's ridiculous. And why is that? Well, because the bulbs are on the outside of the house, but even as much of a giveaway is the windows that look into the house are dark. And it would be much the same if the outside of the house was dark and light was pouring out with every light in the house on. Light was pouring out through the windows. You'd know that it was lit from the inside. Take a star and a sunspot, and somehow mainstream astronomy, cosmology, has convinced people that the star is being lit from the inside when it's black on the inside of a sunspot. It's just impossible. Where's the disconnect with that? Why is it that people can't put that wire together? It's pretty easy from where I'm sitting, and I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. I'm just saying that some people are so dogmatic in their beliefs that they refuse to look at the basic common sense of something. It's not their fault. It's just that we grew up believing that our teachers and our schools and our institutions were all honest with us and told us the truth. But we have come to find out that it is far from the case. We have been lied to just about every step of the way, or misinformed. So, I asked you, when you look at that and you say that's being lit by nuclear fusion going on in the core, how could it possibly be when over half the star is black? It can't be. Now, couple with that, the electrons, the 100-fold increase of electrons that Voyager found that are streaming into our solar system. Well, they used a different word, diffused. They're streaming into our solar system, and they're feeding the sun. And it's right there. I mean, every aspect of the sun, which is a star, says that it's being lit from the outside and that it is electricity that runs stars. I don't know how it could be any more blatant. It's just like the lights, the Christmas lights on the outside of the house are being powered from an outlet that is plugged in to a power plant that could be hundreds of miles away. That power is coming from that power plant through the lines down into the home and lighting the lights. Usually the outlets are on the outside, but that doesn't matter. It's the line that runs the lights. It's being lit from the outside. It's the same thing. Let's take a look and see if the Electric Universe has anything on Betelgeuse. And as usual, they are on the ball. January 29, 2020. It's pretty current. Why is this red giant so puzzling? That's a very beautiful picture there. It was picture of the day, actually. Why is this red giant so puzzling? Betelgeuse is one of the 10 largest stars. If it accompanied the sun's position, its outer envelope would exceed Jupiter's mean orbital diameter. It is so diffuse, however, that the orbits of the inner planets might not be affected. Red giant stars like Betelgeuse are relatively cool, but extremely bright, so they are thought to be large. However, in an electric universe, since they possess coronae, red giants might be small inside their energetic atmospheres. Betelgeuse is only about 2900 Celsius, so it creates problems with the thermonuclear model of stars. Such a cool temperature should not harbor an extreme radiative output. Red giants are old as astronomers measure age, since the so-called main sequence theory states that stars go through a well-established evolution. That evolution is said to follow a path that depends on thermonuclear fusion. Hydrogen gas is compressed in the star's core until it fuses into heavier elements. Therefore, a star's mass and its spectrum are thought to indicate its age, because these ratios of different elements is said to provide an idea of how long it took to convert its original substance into those other elements. Betelgeuse is notable for gigantic bubbles of hot gas that are in constant motion. Bubbles as large as the star itself, since it has been observed to eject massive amounts of stellar material greater than 6 times its diameter. It has been proposed that Betelgeuse is undergoing violent vertical oscillations just beneath its surface. It is that energetic motion that is causing the hot gas to blast into space, just as bubbles in boiling water erupt with puffs of steam. Recently, the massive star is reported to be shrinking, or at least dimming, causing some confusion in astronomical circles. Since Betelgeuse is a variable star, that behavior is not unexpected. Sunspots are seen on its surface. However, there are only 2 of them occupying over 1/3 of its area. They are said to be the signature of heat transfer from the interior through matter convection. In other words, the star is acting like a pot of boiling water, a strictly mechanical phenomenon. The electric star theory provides another explanation, an explanation that relies on the electrical connection stars have with the galactic neighborhood and with the universe. Stars shine because electricity flows through each galaxy. As written many times, stars can be thought of as giant spheres of electricity. It is this simple hypothesis that best matches observational evidence. As mentioned above, red giant stars are relatively cool but extremely bright, so they are interpreted to be quite large. Dr. Donald Scott proposes that the giant characteristic is a result of a large corona and not because the stellar disk is oversized. Physicist and electric universe advocate Wal Thornhill also proposes an electrical model for Betelgeuse and red supergiant stars. In general, electric currents in space are primarily due to the flow of electrons through interstellar plasma, and not the movement of positive ions. This means that the stars are lacking in electrons because of a charge separation process. Stars can be considered positive anodes in a galactic glow discharge. Therefore, red stars are those stars that cannot satisfy their hunger for electrons from the surrounding plasma, so the star expands the surface over area which it collects electrons by growing a large plasma sheath. That becomes the effective collecting area of the stellar anode in space. The growth process is self-limiting because as the sheath expands, its electric field will grow stronger. Electrons caught up in the field are accelerated to ever greater energies. Before long, they become energetic enough to excite neutral particles they chance to collide with, and the huge sheath takes on a uniform red glow. It becomes a red giant star. Betelgeuse is an electric star, and the bright regions are areas where electric currents are flowing with the greatest amperage. Stephen Smith. All right. Thank you, Stephen. That was excellent. It never fails. Thunderbolts never lets us down. And hopefully that will help you glean a little bit better of a picture on the super red giant Betelgeuse. It did me, and stars in general. Like I said, how can a star that's lit from its core have a black umbra in the middle of sunspots? It just doesn't make any sense. And it pretty much says it all to me. Plus, the electrons that were found by Voyager, and so many other things. There has to be an explanation. It can't just be ignored. All right, I want to read this. I found this and I saved it. I bookmarked it because I'm like, these people don't know their butt from third base. There's this website, and what's it called? List First? Anyways, 10 strange conspiracy theories about our solar system. Some of these I never heard of before, but strange conspiracy theories about UFOs and aliens are something we are all used to at this point. They have certainly been going strong for at least the infamous Roswell incident. Well, what do you think of that? Do you think it's just all a bunch of hollow blue, or do you think something really happened there? There's so many people, with the good reputations talked about, like that one guy. I'm trying to think of his name. He was a poo-poo specialist for the Air Force, and then after he retired, he ended up getting converted. Oh man, he was a serious guy too. Oh man, I stink. I can't remember. It's right on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember. Anyways, so I don't know. I'm probably 60-40 against, but at least my mind is open. But let's get back to it. thing here. The internet has brought many of them to the forefront of the modern consciousness. Of course, despite the attempts of some of the theorists to fit every wild claim about our solar system into one box, it doesn't always work properly. As you might imagine, many conspiracy theorists, and that's actually a CIA term, that they were sent memos to all of the offices and said, they call them stations, that if anyone says anything bad about Kennedy assassination, call them a conspiracy theorist. It doesn't mean anything. It means truth seeker, really. Have trouble agreeing on what exactly is the government hiding from us, and just what intentions of our secret alien overlords are. Number 10, this one isn't all that interesting. The moon landing was real, but the footage was faked. That's probably made up by NASA, right? The theory of the moon landing was faked is one of the most popular, longest-running conspiracy. We just talked about that the other night, about the United States government. While we may not know the arguments, we all know the theory well. In essence, the theory states that there were many flaws in the footage that show how improbable it is that the landing actually happened. Theorists have pointed out issues with lighting, atmospheric conditions, other oddities that don't seem to make sense. As far as the theorists are concerned, these flaws with the footage prove that the moon landings never happened. And the whole thing was actually filmed on a set somewhere else. I still think they happened. I don't know. I saw it on TV, okay? There is an even more insane theory than the moon landing hoax, though, that purports, and you know the CIA puts a lot of this stuff out too, or whoever the disinformation agents are, to muddy the water. We know that. Purports to be reasonable take on events. This other theory agrees that the footage is most definitely faked, but thinks that we actually did land on the moon. They believe that with all the money that was spent with the rocket, and it actually did go up with people who really did leave for outer space. And then Van Allen belts, man, I don't know. It's likely that such a mission did indeed occur, okay? However, they don't think that we had technical capabilities at the time of the mission to properly film the event, or the government was afraid that the footage wouldn't be good enough. And so they make a mock-up of the events and set for propaganda reasons. Some other theories claim that we saw things on the moon, such as alien life, that the government didn't want us to see. And that was the real reason for the moon landing cover-up. Yeah, I mean, it's probable. I ain't saying it's possible even, but it's probable. But I really don't know what to think about that, because I used to think, okay, they're busted because the camera can't take 200-degree weather. But I found out that heat does not disperse in space like it does in an atmosphere. So it could have happened. So that was proven, so I accepted that. And there was another one. There's the one that really gets me, though, is this one guy. He spent like 4 hours making this video, and he really went to some really meticulous means to prove his point, but he was claiming that the angle of the moon and the horizon is not copious, if you will, with the where the camera was on the astronaut's body. Because it was like halfway down his body, like on his chest, and the horizon is, look, he showed it with a bunch of examples, and where the horizon is when you take the pictures, it's like he's holding the camera up to his face. That's one thing that's going to be hard to explain, but I'm going to still go with I think we went to the moon. The Velikovsky theory, well, this is the one that caught my eye, the Velikovsky theory, please. And, you know, they got a nice little picture here, but I got to read it, so it won't do me any good to show it to you. Immanuel Velikovsky was a non-scientist who fancied himself a scientist. Right away. Yep, come out with the derogatory hit right away before you, because you don't want anybody to look at the evidence Okay, I shut up. And took to putting together an elaborate theory about the solar system that made very little sense. Of course, because you're an ignorant Kool-Aid drinker. He published a book that sold extremely well in the U.S. called Worlds in Collision. So they're trying to stitch in them, you know. That dude Sitchin, or yeah, whatever his name is, he's not Velikovsky. It's far from it. But they're trying to Sitchinize Velikovsky, which hoisted that many of the crazy events that happened in the Bible actually did take place, and that they were caused by other celestial bodies, namely, Velikovsky thinks, based on mythology and readings of ancient texts, that Mars and Venus caused many different disasters and strange happenings by passing too close to the planet. Part of the contention is that Venus rotates backwards and is thus a normal member of not a normal member of the solar system. Velikovsky believed that the disasters spoken of in the Bible had analogies in other cultures around the same time, which they did, and they were all caused by the planet Mars and Venus. Although it's hard to say how he established which one caused which. His theory was vehemently denied by scientists, who were not at all happy about his odd idea. You know, for something to be true, it doesn't necessarily have to not be odd. In fact, it's more often than not that the odd thing is the one that's true. We know that. Well, anyways, this person's name. Oh, that's the photo. Who's the writer? I will find out later. But, you know, I want to answer, but they didn't give me no place to reply. And I wouldn't be mean. I'd just try to school him. You got to take an open-minded look at what he's saying and listen to the evidence that he has acquired. Because he's not some off-the-wall goofball. He's a brilliant, scholarly scientist. They just don't want to give him his props. That's a quick way to get me angry. Most people either believe that the climate is changing naturally. Oh, this is the 8. Solar system climate change. Most people either believe that the climate is changing naturally, that it's changing due to man-made reasons, or stubbornly refuse to believe it is changing at all. Solar system, my voice is froggy. I need my throat spray, but I don't have it anymore. I gotta get some. It really helped me too. Okay, enough whining. Stop whining. I gotta get some sound drops so I can play them. Alright, solar system climate change theorists, on the other hand, believe that climate change is happening, but that it is absolutely nothing to do with anything on Earth at all, natural or otherwise. One proponent of the theory cites news articles showing that there are scientific signs of climate change on Mars. There is, Jupiter, and other planets in the solar system. And absolutely, Mars is starting to develop an ozone. He also states that Pluto being farthest from the sun seems to be showing signs of warming. He theorizes that the only way all of this makes any sense is if the entire solar system is warming up. I think Ted showed me a picture of I think it was a giant walrus or something on Pluto, and there's a road. It's creepy. This would mean, you know, we only know about life as, you know, as we know it, an old term, you know. There could be, if we didn't have to breathe oxygen and cold or heat didn't affect us, we could probably go to any planet in the solar system right now. So what's to say there isn't life that's already doing that? We only know of one way. Okay, where was I? One proponent of the theory cites news articles showing... I read that. Okay. All right, so the whole system is warming up. This would mean that there is no climate change happening on Earth, regardless of cause. It's all just the entire solar system warming up. Of course, what exactly this shift in the solar system climate is caused by, or how it works, seems to be beyond the scope of the theorists' knowledge of climate change. Well, here's the thing. climate change it's not anthropomorphic, because the trees in the Amazon forest, the plankton in the ocean, they all breathe carbon dioxide. As a matter of fact, with the little bit of carbon dioxide we put in the air, if we're contributing to it at all, it might be like a fraction of 100th or 1000th%. But the freaking poles are melting. All the glaciers are breaking off, and they're afraid of this one breaking off in Antarctica right now, and saying that if it actually breaks off and goes into the sea, that the world's oceans will go up in depth. That's kind of, it's a little bit to be concerned about. There's really nothing we can do. What are we going to do? Stop driving cars and just take bikes? No, we're not. The one thing we need to do is our scientists need to come clean with us and get into the electric universe and stop all that sucking the oil out of the ground. They've got to be, just think of how much oil they've sucked out of the earth already. And what is it leaving in its place? Does it fill back up? Or is it, once it's gone, and then you're going to have a gigantic ocean-sized cavern under the earth. And you'll wonder why sea and land trade places. I don't know. It's just, I just don't think it's very good for the earth. We need to stop screwing around. They can't find a place to put the meter. Okay, number 7, the Lucifer Project. I'd never heard of this. It's kind of a cool picture, though. I'm going to steal that. Put it in my collection. All right, in 2001, a space... I got to check and see if the pictures are still running. Hold on. Okay. Is it getting old yet? In 2001, A Space Odyssey novels, strange alien beings use very odd technology to basically turn Jupiter into a second sun, which is called Lucifer. This idea is that the second sun would be made with the right size and temperature to make all of the moons surrounding it livable, and thus create multiple new planets to colonize. Yeah, like Ganymede. This could either provide a place for intelligent alien life to live near Earth, or a new place for us to live. Of course, turning Jupiter into a sun probably seems like the kind of idea that would only actually work in science fiction. The idea is massive in scope, and if something like that could work, the precision required to make Jupiter a sun that could sustain its own planets without ruining the orbits and lives of every other planet in the solar system would be extremely hard, along with the problem of possibly just blowing the whole thing up and ruining everyone's day. I don't think that they can ignite Jupiter. It's not, it's not a ball of gas or that's flammable, or, it doesn't have a core. It could have been a brown dwarf star at one time. According to the theorist, NASA has already tried to implement the Lucifer Project. I wouldn't doubt it a bit. Explode a nuke in there or something. It intends to try again and again until they succeed. Yeah, they're evil bastards. The probes sent into space often use a radioactive compound called plutonium. 238 for fuel, because hardly anything else works well for a sustained mission in space. We had a probe crash on Jupiter a few years back to protect Jupiter's moons. From exposure to any diseases that might be contained on the probe. Conspiracy theorists believe that this was not just to protect the moons of Jupiter, which they believe we are trying to colonize, but also to test whether we can use the radioactive payload to turn Jupiter into a star and implement the Lucifer Project. Crazy. A thought crossed my mind while I was reading, and I wanted to hold it, and now I've forgotten it. Getting old sucks, Earlier I was working on my video yesterday, and I went to get a picture and forgot what picture I was looking for. It's like, oh my God, it's getting bad. I hope I don't have it. No, I'm sure I don't. What is this? Oh. Payload to turn Jupiter into a star and implement. Okay, I read that. The comet landing conspiracy. Recently, the Philae lander managed to land on a comet through the efforts of the European Space Agency. However, while many people celebrated our continued skill in the arena of space travel, some theorists had other ideas about the entire event. Before long, due to the out-of-the-ordinary course of events, conspiracies started to crop up. The European Space Agency did say that it heard mysterious sounds on the comet, which only increased speculation. The theories claim that the billions of dollars, that were spent on the mission and the sudden nature of it all point toward the comet being an alien artifact. The theory also makes the dire warning that the object perhaps did not want to be found. Others suggest that it actually has a transmission tower. I've seen that. I've seen that on another series. And the photos have shown UFOs in the background, proving that the entire thing is a big alien affair that the governments of the world are trying to hush up. Number 5. The all-seeing eye of Saturn. Oh, this is going to be good. I gotta get a drink for this. Drink a water. Man, my mouth gets so dry sometimes. I don't know what the heck causes that. I'm afraid to look it up. Anything you look up now, they go right to the worst scenario. You know? Okay. Number 5, the all-seeing eye of Saturn. That hasn't changed in a while, has it? Alright, I'll get a new one. Okay, we'll try this one. I'm putting packages together finally, starting to organize my pictures a little better, because it was just too maddening. Alright. Let's read this here. In 2007, NASA, I just put it in that folder. It's green with a red spot if it happens to come up. I can't see it because I'm reading. I don't want to knock my guitar. I'm trying to get comfortable here. Okay. In 2007, NASA published some new images taken by the Cassini spacecraft, which was sent to take pictures of Saturn in the 1990s. Then the mission was over. It was like a 12-year mission, and it was over before you knew it. The images showed a shocking hexagon that encompassed all of Saturn's North Pole, leading scientists to speculate as to what caused it. In fact, the scientists at NASA, who don't know their butt from a hole in the ground, have been unsure as to why such a thing would form on a planet with Saturn's atmosphere. The image was shocking not only because it seemed to be so geometrically precise, but also because of its immense size. NASA scientists wonder which way is up. No, said that the equivalent of 4 Earths could fit inside the area of the anomaly. Of course, while NASA is not ready to make a judgment as to why the hexagon is there, theorists at Natural News have some ideas as to what is going on. The writer at the Natural News links to the photo shared on NASA's website and points out that the photo clearly does not exist and that NASA does not understand the phenomena. He then, it does not exist, I don't see it, He then claims that if you look closely, you can see a pyramid and 2 concentric circles. After this, he suggests that you whip out a dollar bill and notice that the all-seeing eye on the back of the dollar is the same image floating in the Saturn photograph Oh, no, that's creepy, man. He tries to fend off accusations of being crazy for making such a suggestion by repeating that he is simply stating that the photograph exists and that the all-seeing eye is there, but that he is not making any specific claims about aliens, gods, or the New World Order. He also suggests that NASA could have faked the eye that he sees in the image, but he has no idea why they would do such a thing. I don't know. Yeah, I can kind of see a face there. I kind of do. I see what he's saying. I'm gonna put this picture in an image thing for you, so you can look at it. Okay, image, and let me find it here. I put it in downloads. Yeah. All right. Come on, show yourself. Oh, there it is. There it is. All right. All right, and here is the image. See a face there in the middle? See it? I see the bridge of the nose, the eyebrows, maybe a mouth. That's kind of freaky. But what I like more than that, because that could be pareidolia, but when you look in there, you can see depth in there. You know, there's nothing more interesting than to find out what it's like on Jupiter or Saturn, right, and floating around in the stratosphere or something. That'd be kind of cool. They got lightning 10,000 times more powerful than Earth, you know, and it's very electrically active. And, you know, it gives off 3 times more heat than it takes in. It doesn't hardly take in anything, I wouldn't think. And it's at war with itself. It's in turmoil. So it signifies a recent change. And, you know, people just, they can't, it never ceases to amaze me that they can't seem to wrap their head around Saturn theory, but they'll totally believe in this something's banged out of nothing thing with dark matter and the whole lot, you know, just, it's just people scamming them. And they're like, oh yeah, that's great, huh? You could watch a mainstream cosmology video. I've said this before. You can watch them all. You'll never learn a damn thing. You just walk away knowing everything you knew when you came in. You watch Electric Universe video, you learn stuff, man. Because it's right there. Boom, 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 boom. Fact after fact. It's nothing. And, you know, I saw something on the side today in a video. And I know a couple of people have mentioned the guy. It's Professor Dave or something. And he's like, debunk Sapphire. I'm like, oh, okay. He's got a bone to pick. You know, they must have did something to make him mad. And now he's going to try to get his revenge. That's not how science is done. I'm sorry. If you can show a legitimate way that it's... But, you know, you still have to take into account all the things, the dots they already have connected. You can't just say, oh, well, that don't line up, so everything else is off. It should, but maybe we just don't know the explanation for it yet. So, you know, just have to keep an open mind, you know. That's what I think, anyway. And I ran off the rails again here. Okay, so, where are we at? Oh, no, I lost it. I got it. Hold on. Go to my history. It should be here. Oh, yeah, I got it. Okay, I'm back on track. Okay, now we were at number 7, Lucifer. Now we're going to number... the comet landing theory. Okay, number 5, Saturn, yeah. And, okay, of course, NASA is... the writer... okay, I've already read that too. Okay, now, number 4. President Obama has been to Mars. Oh, boy. I'm going to read this. Let me just get the picture up there. Close it out here. Boom. And boom. Okay. All right. Where was I? Okay. President Obama has been accused of being being a secret Muslim, not being American, and in some theories a secret sleeper candidate specifically designed to take down the USA from within. He has been criticized for a lack of service record, along with a lack of experience in most things political before he took office. However, some theorists claim that Obama only appears to be hiding those secrets because he is actually hiding one much bigger, one that could make him look good, perhaps, but that he cannot talk about to this day. The theorists claim that way back in the 1980s, when Obama was in college, I know what this is, he participated in a joint program run by the CIA and DARPA, and became a chrononaut. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to say anything against teleportation because it's very possible that they've acquired that. Tesla said in his notes that when he was in Colorado, he perfected 2 experiments. One was his electricity for his tower, and the other one was a tried and true teleport system. So, would they tell us? better believe they wouldn't. It's more about lining up the ions or the molecules and matching them thing for thing, and then you can just step right over there. We talked about that before. If any kind of space travel is going to be done, it's going to have to be on a basis like that, where they're cutting out everything in the middle and just getting there in seconds. You can't linearly travel 600 light years. That's just crazy. It's not going to happen. Because how can man go 20 times the speed of light? They'd probably fry them. I don't know. I guess anything's possible, but I would be more in favor of a teleportation type thing. Obama was teleported to Mars using something called a jump room, and that he went on dangerous missions on more than one occasion. We call these people theorists, but 2 of them claim to be breaking their silence by telling the truth. They were supposedly chrononauts as well, and I'm sure they give presentations and wrote a book and are charging money. These missions were supposedly meant to help us forge an alliance with the Martians to help protect us from intergalactic threats to our species. And Obama was supposedly told that this mission was to be seen and not eaten. Of course, if these theorists were actually telling the truth, they would probably not get away with sharing classified information so easily. Amen. There it is. Yes. Number 3, we colonized Mars decades ago. I've heard this. Some people think that the only hope for humans is to find some way to colonize Mars. For years, we have been sending probes. Here, I'm going to do this, make it a little better. I'm going to give you the picture here. No, it's kind of on the moon. Let's just put a new image in here so you can look at this while we read it. And me and Ted did a show on Mars, and he's convinced that people are living there. I'm not so convinced, but I admit it's possible. Okay. You gotta have an open mind in these things. Alright. Some people think that the only hope for humans is to find some way to colonize Mars. For years, we've been sending probes trying to get better understanding of the landscape. Yeah, we do send a lot of probes. We're like obsessed with Mars. We keep sending probes there. There's a new one on its way. It's supposed to be a bad little thing, man, like the size of a VW bus. Then they're going to send that helicopter to... they're sending a helicopter to Mars, too. But they're sending a helicopter to Titan. I read the story about that. Oh, no. For years, we have been sending probes trying to get a better understanding of the landscape and the life that may or may not have existed there. Speculation continues to increase every year as to when we will be able to send a manned mission to Mars, and what kind of challenges we will continue to face. However, some people are convinced that we went to Mars long ago and have had a colony set up for a while. For those who believe in such a notion, there may be new evidence that has come to light. In 2014, a woman who would only call herself Jackie claimed that she used to work for NASA and that she saw evidence that we have colonies on Mars. Water time. Sorry, I don't mean to drink in your ear. Or that there are actually intelligent Martians living on the red planet. A lot of signs of it. According to her story, she was helping bring the Viking lander down the Martian landscape when she saw two figures walking toward the lander. She claims that she and her colleagues nearby had their feeds cut as this happened. They ran upstairs to try to get a better look, but their superiors had locked the doors and taped up any cracks so they could not look through. I wouldn't doubt that. The woman speculates as to whether it was aliens or fellow humans, although her theory seems to fall more on the side that they were human colonists. Of course, you may not necessarily believe her story, considering her other pet theory. She thinks that the 9/11 attacks were holograms. That would make me want to believe her even more, because it's true. They were. It's been proven by Dr. Judy Wood. Everybody's... man, they fight over the stupidest things. Shouldn't it be just like... let's kind of concentrate on the victims and the fact that it was done and go from there? But they got to fight about, is it thermite or was it a laser space-based weapon? Well, I mean, Judy Wood, she just hauls out evidence, fact after fact. I don't know. For some reason, people don't want to believe her or listen to her. I don't know why. She's pretty intelligent, and she's a straight shooter. She's not, some sensationalist or something. Number 2, Hubble telescope moon argument. I haven't heard this one. One of the more rarely heard theories about the moon landing is that the government could easily prove that it happened if they wanted to. As far as they are concerned, the fact that the government hasn't supplied them with proof that they demand is proof in itself that events never occurred. Their theory goes that we have the Hubble Space Telescope, which is able to take amazing pictures of distant galaxies. Absolutely. With such a powerful telescope under our control, it should be as simple as pointing it at the moon and taking pictures of all the landers that were left behind. With these pictures, the government could easily prove the moon landings, and in fact, the fact that they haven't is a smoking gun to their sneaky, underhanded cover-up operation. Well, it's kind of worse now, because all of a sudden they were stating for the longest time that it's not like that. Hubble can't see little features on the ground of the moon. It doesn't have the right filters because the moon is really bright, and the list goes on. But then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I ran into some pictures that said was taken by the Hubble telescope. And it shows the Apollo 11 landing site with footprints, and then they showed the Apollo 12 landing site with the little car they drove parked a ways away. And I thought, well, isn't that something that all of a sudden they must have had some dramatic improvement where they can do that now? So that is what actually made me skeptical. The fact that they could, all of a sudden we can do it. What happened? Progress? I can buy that, but I just, I haven't heard a good explanation. The problem with me is that they don't really take time to bother to explain themselves very well. They don't think they owe us anything, and it's us that pays their bills, pays their check, you know. But as usual, you know, the taxpayers are the one who get the shitty end of the stick. According to astronomer Phil Platt of Bad Astronomy fame, the problem is one of resolution. The Hubble telescope and most large telescopes on Earth are built for resolving very distant images. Yeah, well, we already went through that. Okay. Number one, the Phobos failure was caused by HARP. A few years ago, Russia tried to send a probe to Mars. It was dubbed the Phobos Grunt. From nearly the beginning, the probe was beset by challenges, while still in orbit around the Earth. Before it could even head off to the Red Planet, it started having problems communicating with home base. The probe was supposed to head off to Mars once it reached low orbit around Earth, but it orbited higher than it was supposed to, and then just kind of kept orbiting. When stations on Earth managed to establish contact, even the ones in Russia received confusing encrypted data. Eventually, the craft completely failed, and theorists started ruminating over what could have caused it all to happen. While some like to blame things we can't control, like the supposed Martian curse that plagues missions to Mars around the world, others pointed their sights at the U.S. The theorists believe that the Project HARP, High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, is to blame for the failure of the Phobos Grunt. While the U.S. claims HARP is only meant for experiments to understand the ionosphere, the theorists believe that it has also been used in an attempt to control the weather. I would believe that. Yeah. All them forest fires, man. Why don't they just make it rain? They can. They've got the power to do it, but they won't. Because they don't want people living in California. Agenda 21. They want it to go back to nature. You know, so it can be pretty for them. I mean, they just have their priorities so straight, you know. I mean, California lost all that groundwater and all them fires, and now it's even worse. I don't know. It's just, there's something going on. It has to be. While the U.S. claims that HARP is only meant for experiments to understand the ionosphere, the theorists believe that it also has been used in an attempt to control the weather. So it's hardly a stretch to think that it was also used to bring down the Phobos Grunt as part of America's continuing Cold War against the Russian people. You know, that is true. I mean, I have never in my life, you know, you would think President Trump, when he first got into office, you know, I saw a couple things with him, not that much, but he said he wants to make friends with the Russians. He said, doesn't that make sense? And everybody's clapping and cheering. And I was like, yeah, that does make sense. I mean, God, those guys got nuclear weapons. They got, you know, they're still Russia. You know, and then there's China, which is a whole nother story. But we need to make friends with Russia, man. I mean, they're just like Americans. The only thing is that they speak a funny language, and they used to be communist. But outside of that, they're just like John Kennedy said. You know, you can't think that any system is so evil that its people would be lacking in virtue. You know, and he said that we needed to self-analyze our own feelings about what we think peace is, instead of just having expectations for everybody else. You know, that's how he talked. I mean, that's how he was. You know, and they, you know, called him all them names and hated him because he didn't take orders from them like they're used to. I'm still pissed about that. Well, that's the top 10, and I wanted to read something on the wow signal. So I'll just briefly run through something. Well, I'm going to find one, a good one. So I'm going to put on a tune. I'll be back. Okay. I'll be right back. Well, I almost X'd out OBS. Okay, I got the image here. I was talking to someone on chat on the Premiere about this possibility that there's some kind of life on. Oh, it wants my email. Don't you just love the way they are now? When you want to look at a story on a website, you've got to like jump through hoops. I usually don't, but I'm going to do it this one time because this means I'll get inundated with emails. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? Heck with you, man. I'm not going to make you force me to do that. Usually space.com, they'll ask you, but they won't. Like say, you can if you don't do it, you can't read it. Nah. If we can't steal your information and sell it, what good are you? All right, so, NPR. Is NPR... I just don't want it to be a tabloid thing. Astronomy Now. Okay, I'll take that. I gotta get some oil for my squeaky chair. I hate it. Possible evidence found for life on Venus. I want to see what this all the hubbub's about. The best evidence for life beyond Earth has been found in the most surprising of places. The atmosphere of Venus. It's the atmosphere. A team led by, I thought it might be these like moltenous creatures that love heat, A team led by Jane Greaves, who is a professor at Cardiff University, has detected the presence of phosphine. Phosphine? Let's see. I think it's phosphine.
Phosphine.
How about that? The presence of phosphine gas in the Venus clouds. The intriguing thing about phosphine, which is a molecule formed of 3 hydrogen atoms and 1 phosphorus atom, is that on Earth its only natural source is from some anaerobic, i.e. non-oxygen breathing, microbial life forms. Okay. No known geological mechanism or non-biological chemical reaction produces it on our planet, although it is produced deep inside gas giants like Jupiter and Saturn, where hydrogen is plentiful and the temperature and pressure extremely high. It's got that picture of Venus you're looking at right there. A synthesized false color image of Venus using 283 nanometers and 365 nanometers band images taken by the Venus ultraviolet imager. This was an experiment made out of pure curiosity, really, says Greaves. I thought we'd be able to rule out extreme scenarios, like the clouds being stuffed full of organisms. When we got the first hints of phosphine in Venus spectrum, it was a shock. The discovery, which was made thanks to observations by the James Clerk Maxwell Telescope in Hawaii and the Atacama Large Submillimeter Array in Chile, is not confirmation that there is microbial life on Venus, cautions Greaves. He can't admit that. The churches would have his head. Venus is a very different planet. They're just teasing us. To Earth, with a high temperature, atmospheric pressures, and a carbon dioxide-rich atmosphere with clouds made of almost pure sulfuric acid. Although it is possible that there could be some chemical reaction that produces phosphine in Venus extreme conditions that does not occur on Earth. At present, the scientists do not know what the reaction could be. One scientist said that he believes that there are great unicorns. I'm just kidding. Oh, man. The lack of knowing is, in large part, a result of the limited experiments modeling Venus chemistry. I know, I laugh at my own jokes. It's funny. Well, I don't know. What do you think? I suppose it's pretty hot there. I don't know. Hey, I guess anything's possible. Greaves tells astronomy now, when we were trying to work out reaction rates, there was nothing to look up because no one had done those experiments on Earth. They didn't want their lab to explode. But that's why we're being cautious on our conclusions. There is also the question of how life could survive in an environment like Venus, although there is a region in the Venetian atmosphere between about 50 and 60 kilometers in altitude where the temperature and atmospheric pressure are like Earth. There is still the sulfuric acid and near total lack of water for any putative life to have to deal with. The real challenge is seeing whether any form of life could evolve to adapt to the incredibly acidic environment, says Greaves. We just have no analogy to those conditions on Earth. Venus now jumps to the top of the list of targets in the solar system where astrobiologists are looking for microbial life. Mars, as well as the underground oceans on Jupiter's moon Europa, and Saturn's moon Enceladus, and Ganymede, have been. They don't want to see. They don't mention Ganymede. Oh no, we're not going to mention that. I can just read them by what they're not saying, as much as I can by what they are. However, if microbial life is confirmed to exist floating in the clouds in Venus' atmosphere, it would blow the notion of a habitable zone and life requiring Earth like planets right out of the window, if true. It would mean that we would need to radically widen our search for life beyond the solar system to incorporate many more environments, particularly as there are likely to be more planets like Venus than there are like Earth that have the rare Goldilocks qualities of being just right. Come on, start talking. Oh, boy. Anytime, sweetheart.
You to hear the announcement of a significant scientific result from an international team. Before we kick off, I should say a little bit about the Royal Astronomical Society. We are honoured to host this press conference in our bicentenary year.
We have sticks
Our
in our
society
butts,
represents over 4,000 astronomers
and we look at
in the UK
at
and
each
all
other down our nose.
That international membership is a reminder that astronomy thrives as a result of cooperation beyond borders. It also depends on investment over many years to enable us to address the most fundamental and difficult to answer questions about our place in the universe. The 200th year has seen the final flowering of RAS 200, 12 projects with external partners designed to bring astronomy and geophysics to new audiences. It is fitting, for reasons you'll hear shortly, that our first president, Sir William Herschel, had a deep interest in the solar system, and that our current president, Professor Emma Bunce, is a planetary scientist. On our panel today, we have Professor Jane Greaves of Cardiff University, Professor Sarah Seeger and Dr. William Baines from MIT in the US, and technical expert Dr. Anita Richards from the Jodrell Banks Center for Astrophysics. They are four of the 19 authors of the Nature Astronomy paper where the research appears today, variously at the East Asian Observatory, Cambridge, Imperial College, the Open University, Royal Observatory Greenwich, Atacama Large Submillimeter Array, and Kyoto Sangyo University. Jane and the other panelists will give short presentations on their new work. There will then be plenty of time for questions directed by my colleague, Dr. Robert Massey, from journalists in this Zoom room. I'm proud to say that Jane, who will start in a second, is also a former RAS Research Fellow. Over to you, Jane.
Oh, thank you all. Oh, I wanted to talk about the electric.
Thank you, Phil. That nice introduction. Okay, let me just try and share my screen here.
Oh, yes. Well, here, I'll just, I'll put the link. It's astronomynow.com. Night. And say good night, Dick. All right, Dick. And then I'll be back. All right, hold on. Man, that's a pretty cool picture. Oh, it's my slideshow. So Walthorn here wrote this pithy essay on sapphire and the future of science. So I'm going to read that for you right now. I think it's pretty interesting and very important. It is generally not known that an alternative electric sun model was proposed in 1979 by the engineer Ralph Jurgens. It explains simply the critical longevity of all electrical lights. It is plugged into a galactic circuit, and galactic circuits are the basis of plasma cosmology, which is ignored by astrophysics, but was developed by experimental plasma scientists and engineers in the 20th century. I would say plasma physics is next-gen physics, quite unlike mathematical Big Bang cosmology. Plasma cosmology is simply explanative and has proven to be predictive. Only in the last few years have the circumstances arisen to enable the more recent electric sun model to be tested, called the Sapphire Project. Cutting-edge engineering firm Ortis International Incorporated was contracted by the International Science Foundation to experimentally test the electric sun model. Ortis International Incorporated is an independent body which has no affiliation with the Electric Universe or the Thunderbolts Project. Recently, the Sapphire team shared an extraordinary update on their results to date, and I don't know if you saw the video, but it is extraordinary. In part one of his two-part presentation, our chief science advisor, physicist Walt Thornhill, discussed the Sapphire experiment, its results, and its promise. I think I just played this. And, hold on. Must be part two already? It is short. Okay, I think I played that already. I got a feeling of familiarity with it. If I hadn't heard it in a long time, I wouldn't have that feeling. So I'm going to go on that hunch, say that I just did this bit, so I can't do it. I've been doing it. I noticed I did it with that APEP thing. I go, how many times am I going to report on that? He's not going to do APEP again, is he? Okay. I'm actually going to do something on the wow signal. That has always intrigued me. So I'm going to put up a picture for you. And this will be it for me. I've gone over again. I'm a bad boy. Abbott and Costello fan. All right. And let's see. Where's the image? Okay. I got first. Get the message. Okay, it is in there, isn't it? Did I do that already? No. All right. I'm getting the image for you of the wow signal, and then I'm going to do a little reading, a little reading. Since I joined the Evelyn Woodhead Sped Redding course, my reading has improved. That's Cheech and Chong. All right, here we go. Okay, get rid of the planet there. I'm in a rare form tonight, I guess, being a little goofy. The wow signal was a strong, narrowband radio signal received on August 15th, 1977 by Ohio State University's Big Ear. That's a pretty cool looking place. Radio telescope in the United States. Then used to support the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. I think Ohio is like, they've got to be the fertilizer king of the United States, because every time I go through that state, it smells like manure. It's got to be some big farming thing. Then used to support and the search for extraterrestrial life. And that reminds me of that Seth dude, old Seth. Oh man, aliens could come here and knock on his forehead, and he's like, no, I haven't heard from him on the radio yet, because he's setting himself up to be the big hero. Look what I found. It ain't gonna work any other way for him. Poor guy. Okay. Signal appeared. Okay, I'm going to get right back on the track here. I'm sorry, I've been rambling. The signal appeared to come from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius and bore the expected hallmarks of extraterrestrial origin. Astronomer Jerry R. Eman discovered the anomaly a few days later while reviewing the recorded data. He was so impressed by the result that he circled the reading on the computer printout SEQUJ5, and he wrote the comment "wow" on its side, leading to the event widely used name. The entire signal sequence lasted for a full 72-second window, during which Big Ear was able to observe it, and they would know if it was earthbound. There's a movie with Charlie Sheen about that. It's called The Arrival. One of the most underrated movies ever. I love that flick. I've seen it about 3 times. I own it. It's on Vudu. The entire signal sequence lasted for 72 seconds. Big Ear was able to observe it, but has not been detected since. Despite several subsequent attempts by Eman and others, many hypotheses have been advanced on the origin of the emission, including natural and human-made sources, but none of them adequately explain the signal. No, because it was probably a signal from an extraterrestrial civilization. It doesn't sound too hard. Space has got to be just full of them, really. I don't think we're the only planet. It just doesn't. I don't know. There's probably 1 billion Earths right on the Milky Way by itself. Although the wow signal had no detectable modulation. A technique used to transmit information over radio waves, it remains the strongest candidate for an alien radio transmission ever detected. And it just gives a little background here on the whole thing. And you know, it's some guy on YouTube, I think, hooked it up to something that his daughter had, and it sounded like human beings talking to each other. You know, but that doesn't mean it has to necessarily be earthbound. I don't know. It's intriguing. I always wondered what that was, you know. In 1973, after completing an extensive survey of extragalactic radio sources, Ohio State University assigned the now defunct Ohio State University Radio Observatory, nicknamed Big Ear, to the Scientific Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, SETI. Well, that's too bad. I don't want to see it go down. I'd rather see it working. In the longest running program of its kind in history, the radio telescope was located near the Perkins Observatory on the campus of Ohio Wesleyan University in Delaware, Ohio. By 1977, Eman was working at the SETI project as a volunteer. His job involved analyzing by hand large amounts of data processed by the IBM 1130 computer and recorded on line printer paper. While pursuing data collected on August 15th at 22:16 Eastern Daylight Time, 2:16 UTC, he spotted a series of values of signal intensity and frequency that left him and his colleagues astonished. The event was later documented in technical detail by the observatory's director. Signal measurement. The signal 6EQUJ5 commonly misinterpreted. I think I'll get a t-shirt with that on it, you know, that'd be cool. Commonly misinterpreted as a message encoded in the radio signal, represents, in fact, the signal's intensity variation over time, expressed in the particular measuring system adopted for the experiment. The signal itself appeared to be unmodulated continuous wave, an unmodulated continuous wave, although any modulation with a period of less than 10 seconds or longer than 72 seconds would not have been detectable. I think it said something there. I don't know. Intensity. The signal intensity was measured as signal-to-noise ratio, with the noise or baseline averaged over the previous few minutes. The signal was sampled for 10 seconds and then processed by the computer, which took 2 seconds. Therefore, every 12 seconds, the result for each frequency channel was output on the printout as a single character representing the 10-second average intensity minus the baseline, expressed as a dimensionless multiple of the signal's standard deviation. In the chosen alphanumeric measuring system, a space character denotes an intensity between 0 and 1. That is, between baseline and one standard deviation above it. The numbers 1 to 9 denote the correspondingly numbered intensities. From 1 to 9, intensities of 10 and above are indicated by a letter A. Corresponds to intensities between 10 and 11, B, 11 and 12, and so on. The wow signal's highest measured value was U, an intensity between 30 and 31. That is 30 standard deviations above background noise. Frequency. John Krause, the director of the observatory, gave a value of 420.3556 megahertz in a 1994 summary written for Carl Sagan. But Eman in 1998 gives a value of 420.4556 plus 005 megahertz with detailed explanation. This is 50 Wait a second here. It's one of those kinds of math problems. I got a girlfriend for that. Here, she likes to read.
50 plus or minus 5 kilohertz.
50 plus or minus 5 kilohertz. Okay, I get it. Above the hydrogen line value, with no red or blue shift, of 1 420 40 58 megahertz. If due to blue shift, it would correspond to the source moving about 10 kilometers a second towards us. An explanation of the difference between Ehmann's value and Krauss's can be found in Ehmann's paper. An oscillator, which became the first local oscillator, was ordered for the frequency of 1 450 0.4056 megahertz. However, the university's purchasing department made a typographical error in the order and wrote 1 450 5056 megahertz, i.e. 0.1 megahertz higher than desired. The software used in the experiment was then written to adjust for this error. When Ehmann computed the frequency of the wow signal, he took this error into account. Bandwidth. The wow signal was a narrow band emission. Its bandwidth was less than 10 kilohertz. That must mean how wide it was. The Big Ear telescope was equipped with a receiver capable of measuring 50 10 kilohertz wide channels. The output from each channel was represented in the computer printout as a column of alphanumeric intensity values. The wow signal is essentially confined to one column. Time variation. At the time of the observation, the Big Ear radio telescope was only adjustable for altitude, or height above the horizon, and relied instead on the rotation of the Earth to scan across the sky. Given the speed of Earth's rotation and the spatial width of the telescope's observation window, the Big Ear could observe only a given point for just 72 seconds. A continuous extraterrestrial signal, therefore, would be expected to register for exactly 72 seconds, and the recorded intensity of such signal would display a gradual increase for the first 36 seconds, peaking at the center of the observation window, and then a gradual decrease as the telescope moved away from it. All these characteristics are present in the wow signal. Celestial location. The let me put something else up for you, man. That's probably getting boring to look at. Okay, I got something. We're almost done. All right, and let's find this little picture we gave me here. There it is. It's not much better, but it's something. All right. Back to the article. Celestial location. The precise location in the sky where the signal apparently originated is uncertain, due to the design of the Big Ear telescope, which featured two feed horns, each receiving a beam from slightly different directions. While following Earth's rotation, the wow signal was detected in one beam, but not in the other, and the data was processed in such a way that it was impossible to determine which of the two horns received the signal. Nice. There are therefore two possible right ascension values for the location of the signal, expressed below in terms of two main reference systems. The two regions of space in the constellation Sagittarius from where the wow signal may have originated, The ambiguity is due to how the telescope was designed. For clarity, the widths, right ascension, of the red bands have been exaggerated. There are some technical terms here. Oh, it's given coordinates for a telescope. Okay, the galactic coordinates for the positive horn are, okay, here she comes.
L equals 11.7 degrees, B equals minus 18.9 degrees.
Very good. And for the negative horn,
L equals 11.9 degrees, B equals minus 19.5 degrees.
both being therefore about 19 degrees toward the southeast of the galactic plane, and about 24 degrees east of the galactic center. When I look in space, I don't. Where's the galactic center? I mean, people say, oh yeah, they can see it, but where is it at? I've never seen it. I see stars when I look out there. I don't see no galactic center. How do they do it? What are they in the southern hemisphere or something? I bet you it's probably different. Like Chile, man, it's so dark there. No light pollution. That ground, I mean, it's amazing. It barely ever rains there. It's desolate. But when something lands there from space, it stays for hundreds of thousands of years right on the surface. They found a lot of meteorites and shit like that there. Stuff like that. Okay, back to this. The galactic coordinates for positive horn, okay, we already read that. And no nearby sun-like stars were within the antenna coordinates, although in any direction the antenna pattern would encompass about 6 different distant stars. Hypotheses on the signal's origin. This is the last part. A number of hypotheses have been advanced as to the source and nature of the WOW signal. None of them have achieved widespread acceptance. Interstellar scintillation. Scintillate. Okay. I got a job for you again.
Interstellar scintillation.
Okay, the C is silent. Interstellar scintillation of a weaker, continuous signal, similar in effect to atmospheric twinkling, could be an explanation, but that would not exclude the possibility of the signal being artificial in origin. The significantly more sensitive Very Large Array did not detect the signal, and the probability that a signal below the detection threshold of the Very Large Array could be detected by the Big Ear due to interstellar scintillation is low. Yep, that's what it says. Other hypotheses include a rotating lighthouse, like source, and I go with the lighthouse analogy, a signal sweeping in frequency, or a one-time burst. Eamon has said, we should have seen it again when we looked for it 50 times. Something suggests it was an Earth source signal that simply got reflected off a piece of space debris. He later recanted his skepticism somewhat after further research showed an Earth-borne signal to be very unlikely, given the requirements of a spaceborne reflector being bound to certain unrealistic requirements to sufficiently explain the signal. Also, it is problematic to propose that the 1420 megahertz signal originated from Earth, since this is within a protected spectrum, a bandwidth reserved for astronomical purposes, in which terrestrial transmitters are forbidden to transmit. In 1997 paper, Eamon resists drawing vast conclusions from half-vast data, half-vast, he means half-assed, data, acknowledging the possibility that the source may have been military or otherwise a product of Earth-bound humans. METI President Douglas Vakovich told Die Wheat, what's that? It's a German name. Let's see.
Die Welt.
Die Welt. That any putative SETI signal detections must be replicated for confirmation, and the lack of such replication for the WOW signal means it has little credibility. In a 2012 podcast, scientific skeptic author Brian Dunning concluded that a radio transmission from deep space in the direction of Sagittarius, as opposed to a near-Earth origin, remains the best technical explanation for the emission, although there is no evidence to conclude that an alien intelligence was the source. Discredited hypothesis. In 2017, Antonio Paris, a teacher from Florida, proposed that the hydrogen clouds surrounding two comets, 266P Christensen and 335P Gibbs, now known to have been in the same region of the sky, could have been the source of the WOW signal. This hypothesis was dismissed by astronomers, including members of the original Big Ear research, which is no surprise, team, as the sighted comets were not in the beam at a correct time. Furthermore, comets do not emit strongly at the frequencies involved, and there is no explanation for why a comet would be observed in one beam and not the other. Searches for a reoccurrence of the signal. Several attempts were made by him and other astronomers to recover the identity of the signal and demand that it show itself. No. The signal was expected to occur 3 minutes apart in each of the telescope's feed horns, but that did not happen. Eamon successfully searched for reoccurrences using Big Ear in the months after the detection. In 1987 and 1989, Robert Gray searched for the event using the Meta Array at Oak Ridge University Observatory, but did not detect it. In a July 1995 test of signal detection software to be used in its upcoming Project Argus, SETI League Executive Director H. Paul Schuch made several drift scan observations of the WOW signal's coordinates. Hold on, I lost my place. I accidentally hit the mouse and it moved it. Okay. Yeah. SETI League coordinates. Yeah, the WOW signal's coordinates with a 12-meter radio telescope at the National Radio Observatory in Green Bank, West Virginia, also achieving a null result. In 95 and 96, Gary again searched for the signal using the Very Large Array, which is significantly more sensitive than the Big Ear. Gray and Simon Ellenson later searched for reoccurrences of the event in 1999 using a 26-meter radio telescope at the University of Tasmania's Mount Pleasant Radio Observatory. 6 14-hour observations were made at positions in the vicinity, but nothing like WOW signal was detected. Response. In 2012, on the 35th anniversary of the WOW signal, Arecibo Observatory beamed a signal stream toward an area of the signal's origin. The transmission consisted of approximately 10,000 Twitter messages solicited for the purpose by the Geographic Channel bearing the hashtag Chasing UFOs, a promotion for one of the channel's TV series. The sponsor also included a series of video vignettes featuring verbal messages from various celebrities. To increase the probability that any extraterrestrial recipients would recognize the signal as an intentional communication from another intelligent life form, Arecibo scientists attached a repeating sequence header to each individual message and beamed the transmission at roughly 20 times the power of the most powerful commercial radio transmitter, along with the message, "We got beer, we got beer," and so far nothing has answered. I don't know, it's stupid. All right, in 1995, this is it right here, Ballad of the Wow Signal. 1995, Paul Schuch composed the Filk song, Ballad of the Wow Signal, which is sung to the tune of Ballad of Spring Hill. Why didn't they do Ballad of Dwight Fry? That would have been better. By Peggy Seeger, no relation to Bob. In 2012, the Dandy Warhols released the song SETI vs. the Wow Signal. In 2016, it should be, what's that guy's name? Zach versus the ETs. Oxygen 17 music video. Well, you know about Oxygen 17, right? Well, the oxygen on Earth does not match the sun. The sun has oxygen 17 or 16. The Earth has oxygen 17, and so does Saturn. That is a huge feather in Saturn's cap, but people ignore it. They think it's crazy. Avocados from Mexico, spoofing conspiracy theories such as the moon landing hoax, Area 51, subliminal advertising. A base of stone monolith carries the inscription 6EQUJ5. Funny. You're funny, man. The Wow Signal was mentioned in the X-Files episode Little Green Men. The Wow Signal is used as the source of the alien power suit in the movie Laser Team. Laser Team? That had to be like a B movie. The Wow Signal is the subject of a 2019 documentary written by Michael Shaw. I might be interested in seeing that. And directed by Bob Dawson, even though they're mainstreamers. I might be able to stomach it for a few minutes. The 2019 film Ad Astra, which, you know, Astra was the ancient name that they called the Brahmanas, and we did a bit on them. In the 2019 film, Ad Astra uses the 6EQUJ5 signal as the film name of a top-secret message reviewed by the film's main character. Arecibo message, also see the 1974, the message that they sent that was allegedly replied to a crop circle. Fast radio burst, we've been talking about them. Radio signal from HD 164.595. Oh, so there's more. So I didn't know that. That's why I wanted to get into it, and see what I could find out. I never researched it. SETI observation, signal observation and SETI. On May 15th, 2015, a brief signal radio signal at 11 gigahertz, 2.7 centimeters wavelength, was observed in the direction of HD 164.595 by a team led by N.N. Burzov, involving Claudio Macone at the Rattan 600 Radio Observatory. The signal may have been caused by terrestrial radio frequency interference or gravitational lensing from a more distant source. It was observed only once for 2 seconds by a single team at a single telescope, giving it a Rio scale. Score of 1, insignificant, or 2, low. Discussions in the media from 29 August 2016 onwards. I think back 2016, it was just here. It's been 4 years already. I think I was caught in some kind of a time warp, and I went like straight from 2016 to now, because I don't remember anything in between. It all went by so fast. Very little. Okay. Discussions in the media from 29 August onward. Speculation that the signal could be caused by an isotopic beacon from a Type 2 civilization. I'm convinced it's true. The senior astronomer of the SETI Institute, Seth Shostak, old Seth, it's got to be a signal, stated that confirmation by another telescope is required. Astronomer Nicholas, I bet you it'll be Seth's luck, that he'll put in a 45, 50-year career, retire about 75, and then the next day they'll discover the signal. That would be about par for the course. That the signal is in a military frequency band and that it could have been a satellite downlink, implying that some such systems may be kept secret and therefore would be unknown to SETI scientists. And that's it. That'll do it for me. I overran again. I just wanted to try some live reading instead of recordings. And I think that might be good. I'm going to do that. And just start being a little bit more open with what my subjects are, you know. All right. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to close out with a couple songs and say goodnight to you, and thank you very much for tuning in. And I hope I see you next time. Good night.